Hello, this is question 6 from the 2011 MAT. A, B, C and D are playing together when one of them breaks a precious vase. They all know who broke the vase. When questioned, they make the following statements. Each statement is either true or false. Explain why at least one of the four must be lying. Right, so what we got, Alice is saying it was Bob. Bob is saying it was Diane. Well, we've immediately got a contradiction there. So one of them must be lying there. So for part 1, we've got A and B, well, Alice and Bob contradict each other. Therefore, one must be lying. Therefore, one is lying, or at least one. At least one is lying. Right? Explain why at least one of them must be telling the truth. Right, so what else have we got? It was Bob, it was Diane. Charlie, it was not me. What Bob says is wrong. Right, okay, so Bob and Diane here are in opposition. So Bob and Diane, well, one of B or D must be telling the truth, because Bob's saying it is Diane. Diane's saying, well, it's anyone but me. Must be telling the truth. Okay. Part 3, let us suppose that exactly one of the four is lying. So the other three are telling the truth. Who is lying and who did break the vase? Right, so, well, if we know exactly one of them, we know that at least one of A or B must be lying. So, must be one of A or B lying, because we got that from part 1. Then, well, B seems to have a lot going on here because he's involved in the spat with Diane as well. So what we go with then, so if B lying, then who did break the vase? So B saying it was Diane. Diane's telling the truth by saying that it wasn't her. Alice is telling the truth that it was Bob. So it must be B. Then, well, let's just see if we've got any. Oh, and Charlie fits by saying it's not true. Then, yeah, so that all fits. Then A telling truth that B broke the vase. B broke vase. And then we can also say, so all consistent as well. All consistent. So what if it was A? If A was lying, then you'd be saying that A's lying about it being Bob. B would be telling the truth that it's Diane, and Diane would be saying that it's also Bob. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, so we have to have, oh, and it has to be that B is lying, because, yeah, here we've got in part 2, one of B or D must be telling the truth. And in part A, we've got one of B or D is A or B is lying. So if one of these, B or D, is telling the truth, one of them must be lying. And then in A and B, one of them must be lying. And we've only got one liar, so it must be that that B is lying. So we could have put it that way as well. So we could have there from part 2, one of B or D lying. Therefore, B is liar. Therefore, B broke the vase. Okay, right. So yeah, we might want to set that out in a slightly better way. Then you might want to write this out more clearly. So you could say from 1, we've got A or B lying, and then from 2, we've got B or D lying. It just wasn't as obvious because we were focusing on the fact that one of them must be telling the truth. Therefore, one liar implies that B lying. Therefore, A telling the truth. Therefore, B broke vase. Okay, right, so that's just cleared that up a little bit. Part 4, now let us suppose that exactly one of the four is telling the truth. So that's got to be either B or D. So the other 3 are lying. Who is telling the truth? Who did break the vase? Right, okay. So we've got one of them is lying. So, one of them is telling the truth. So that's got to be B or D. So B or D telling truth. Therefore, A and C must be lying. So, oh, and C's lying by saying it's not them. Therefore, C broke vase. Right, okay, that dropped out, okay. Then the fifth one. Now let's suppose that 2 of the statements are true and 2 are false. List the people who might now have broken the vase. 2 of them are true and 2 of them are false. All right, this sounds like a few more permutations, so I'll change colour for this one. So 2 are true, 2 are false. So we've got B or D are telling the truth. So let's go with that then. So if B is telling the truth, then that means that D is lying. So we've got that. So Bob is telling the truth, and we've got, therefore, D broke vase, providing the other bits are consistent. So that would mean that, so what have we got here? Charlie is saying it's not me. So Charlie must be telling the truth. Then C, true. And Alice saying it was Bob, A, lying. So that fits. So that is consistent because we got 2 telling the truth and 2 lying. So that's fine. Then if D is telling the truth, then we've got that B is lying. But that doesn't help us very much just on those 2 because they're only talking about each other. So we've got an option then. So if B is lying, yeah, we could have either of A or C being the other one. So we're gonna have to subnest this. So we've got that. Then we're gonna have to say, right, if A is telling the truth, then C is lying. Then what have we got on this then? So A is saying it's Bob, and C would be lying, but saying it's not them. So that's a contradiction. So we can't have that. Contradiction. So that's not a good setup. But if we had that D is telling the truth, B is lying, then we say if A is lying, then C is telling the truth. So does that work then? So D is telling the truth, C is telling the truth. So it's not Diane because D is telling the truth, saying that Bob is lying. Right, so it's not Diane. C is telling the truth, which means it's not C. And A is lying about it being Bob, so it must be A. And then Bob is lying about it being Diane. So that is A broke vase. And it is consistent. Okay, so that is fine. And is that all we had to do? Let us now suppose that 2 of the statements are true and 2 of them are false. List the people who might now have broken the vase. So it's either D or A. Right, we've gone through everyone here. So what have we got? Hence show that if we don't know how many of the 4 statements are true, then any one of the 4 could have broken the vase. Right, okay, well, this is what we've just done. So we've said that if there's 1 true, which one was that? One of them is lying, so that's 3 telling the truth there. So 1 telling truth, that was part 4. And in part 4, we said it was C who did it. If you've got 2 telling the truth, that was part 5, which means it is A or D. And if 3 are telling the truth, which was which one was that? Part 3? Yes, part 3. Then that was D, that not D, B that broke the vase. So yeah, it could be any of those, so that's just saying that you've turned up, essentially, that last bit. Well, that was quite an interesting one. Again, they're mixing these ones up, the question 6s. Always the same sort of thing on question 6, but at least they're keeping them fresh.